Popeye's response. Glenn Big Baby Davis kicked off one of the most bizarre off-court scandals on February 7th, 2018, when police rolled up to a Hampton Inn in Aberdeen, Maryland. Hotel staff had called them after smelling marijuana seeping from Davis's room. At first, he didn't open the door, but eventually led officers in. Inside, they found 126 grams of marijuana, packaging materials, a ledger that screamed business, and a briefcase holding about $92,000 in cash. Not exactly travel-sized. The legal hammer came down hard. Davis got slapped with 7 counts of drug possession and distribution. That's not your average misunderstanding at a hotel. But the internet nearly imploded when Davis decided to respond. Not through an interview, not with a lawyer, but by filming himself on a private jet, Popeye's chicken in hand, casually showing off a briefcase full of money. He looked directly at the camera and said, "Don't believe all that you see on the internet." The vibe? Somewhere between music video and confused denial. Fast forward 1 year to February 2019. And Davis avoided court altogether. He paid a $15,000 fine, and prosecutors dropped the charges by moving the case to a stet docket. That means the whole thing got suspended with no trial, no mugshot tour, no courtroom drama, just a lot of Popeyes, cash, and questions. The whole thing felt like a weird, alternate timeline, where chicken, jets, and felony charges all somehow co-star. Broomstick Brawl. During the early 2000s, the Portland Trail Blazers weren't exactly known for harmony. They earned the nickname Jail Blazers thanks to a steady stream of off-court issues. And this next incident, it fit right in. At a practice session, 2 massive bench warmers, Ha-Seung Jin from South Korea and Nedzad Sinanovic from Bosnia, got into a fight that looked more like a bad martial arts scene than an NBA workout. Neither of them had much playing time, but that didn't stop them from making headlines for all the wrong reasons. What kicked off as a typical scuffle quickly turned ridiculous when Ha grabbed a wooden dowel, basically a broomstick, and used it to go after Sinanovic. The thing actually broke during the chaos. That's right, dude picked up a stick like it was recess and tried to settle practice the medieval way. The absurdity of it all just added fuel to what was already a raging fire of dysfunction inside that locker room. The fight wasn't just random. It symbolized exactly what critics had been screaming for years. The team was talented, but completely off the rail. Management had been stacking the roster with players who had skills, but no filter, no control, and apparently no problem grabbing makeshift weapons. The broomstick moment stood out because it wasn't just violent, it was weird. Weird enough to perfectly sum up what made that era unforgettable for all the wrong reasons. It was one of those stories that spread not because it was dramatic, but because it was embarrassing. Like a soap opera with sneakers and shot clocks, the Jail Blazers kept finding ways to keep their name in the news. Boogie's Brawl. DeMarcus Cousins found himself in the middle of a complete meltdown on June 9, 2025, during a road game between the Mets de Guaynabo and the Vaqueros de Bayamon. The moment that blew everything up, courtside cameras caught him making an obscene gesture toward a heckling fan, and it got worse. He actually reached over and grabbed the fan's arm, which sent everyone into overdrive. Teammates and staff had to rush in to separate him before things spiraled even further. As he was getting escorted off the court, it turned into chaos. Fans started chucking liquids, and who knows what else at him. Security had to physically hold him back to stop things from going completely off the rails. The league didn't wait around. They hit Cousins with a suspension for the rest of the season, and his contract with the Mets was straight up terminated. Money-wise, it was a pretty hefty slap too. He was fined $4,250 for a disqualifying foul, a technical foul, and the behavior during the incident. But that might not be the end of it. There's still a possible additional fine of $5,750 hanging over him, which could push the total to $10,000. The Mets de Guaynabo came out with a statement trashing all forms of violence and provocation. They said they're standing for respect and safety. Meanwhile, fans from Bayamon who crossed the line with insults or started throwing things, banned for the rest of the season. The Vaqueros are now required to tighten up their security game big time. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to be posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, Chowdan Sports controversy. Chowdan Sports launched around 2000 and quickly stirred up global heat by leaning hard into Michael Jordan's legacy without ever getting the green light. They scooped up trademarks for Chowdan and its Chinese characters, plus slapped a silhouette of a basketball player on products, all without Jordan's permission. While Nike and Jordan sat out the branding party, Chowdan was out here pushing shoes and sportswear as if they got a thumbs up from Chicago's finest. By 2010, the company was everywhere in China, over 30 franchises and between 4,000 to 5,000 specialty stores. Their revenue ballooned from $45.6 million in 2007 to over $456 million just 3 years later. They were doing deals with China Central Television and even had their logo courtside during NBA broadcasts in China. It was loud. In 2012, Jordan finally had enough. He filed a lawsuit to challenge their use of his name, jersey number, and even his son's names. That sparked a legal storm with over 80 lawsuits and countersuits across Chinese courts. The legal maze dragged on for years. By 2020, the Supreme People's Court of China stepped in. They ruled Jordan had name rights to the Chinese characters, but not to the pinyin spelling or the silhouette. Chowden Sports had to stop using Chowden, and 74 trademarks were revoked, but the logo and pinyin name survived. Eventually, Chowden rebranded as Zhongqiao Sports Company, and by 2023, they were filing for an IPO on the Shanghai Stock Exchange. So they're still around, just with a slightly less controversial nameplate and a whole lot more court time behind them. Kerr's tweet slip-up. On February 1st, 2018, Steve Kerr lit up the timeline with one accidental move. While watching a game between the Rockets and Spurs, he saw James Harden hit a step-back three that looked more like a hop, skip, and maybe a travel. The NBA posted the highlight, and Kerr dropped a quote that made headlines instantly. He tweeted, "It's an embarrassment. I think the league is so happy with all the scoring that it doesn't want to enforce stuff like that." Strong words, especially coming from a head coach. But here's where it turned into a full-on digital faceplant. Kerr deleted the tweet in under 30 seconds. Turns out he thought he was sending a direct message to a friend, not throwing shade in front of millions. The culprit? A brand new iPhone, and apparently a coach not quite trained in the dark arts of modern messaging. He had assistant coach Chris DeMarco handle the cleanup, and the tweet was gone almost as fast as it went up. The league took a look and decided not to fine Kerr. They believed the story. It was meant to be private, it got deleted quickly, and honestly, it didn't look like a stunt for attention. Still, for a guy known for being measured and media savvy, it was a rare public slip. That one comment, even though it was up for half a minute, pulled back the curtain on how some coaches really feel about what gets called and what doesn't. No fine, no suspension, just a quick moment where a coach learned the difference between a DM and a disaster, one iPhone tap at a time. Love under fire. On January 20th, 2018, the Cavaliers were absolutely torched by the Thunder in a 148-124 loss. Early in that disaster, Kevin Love dipped out. He played just 3 minutes before heading to the locker room, citing migraine symptoms. Not only did he leave the game, but he also missed the next team practice. That's when things boiled over. The following Monday, the Cavaliers called an emotional team meeting. And by emotional, we mean players straight up accused Love of faking the illness to avoid taking part in the embarrassing loss. Reports called the meeting loud and intense, and tensions were off the charts. Isaiah Thomas was one of the loudest voices in the room, allegedly leading the charge with questions about whether Love just bailed on the team. Love didn't stay silent. He stood up, addressed the team, and defended himself in front of players, coaches, and management. Some in the room may have accepted his explanation, but it didn't exactly bring peace and harmony to the locker room. The fractures remained. Head coach Tyronn Lue wasn't thrilled. He called the whole thing crazy and stood by Love, saying he couldn't believe teammates were questioning whether he was really sick. Still, the damage was done. The team stayed divided, and Love became a focal point of that tension. Whatever was said in that room didn't magically fix the deeper issues. It was just one more chapter in a season that was unraveling fast, and Love ended up right in the middle of it, whether he wanted to be or not. Silna Brothers TV heist. Back in 1976, the NBA and ABA finalized their big merger, but not everyone got a golden ticket. The Spirits of St. Louis, owned by Ozzie and Daniel Silna, were left out. No NBA invite, no games, no players absorbed. But that's where things took a wild turn. The Silnas struck a deal that became legendary. They agreed to shut down their team for just $2.2 million, but added a kicker: 1/7 of all television revenue earned by the 4 ABA teams that did join the NBA, and that share was locked in forever. The cut was divided up 45% to each brother and 10% to their attorney. At first, it didn't look like a jackpot. They earned around $521,000 in the 1980 season. But when the NBA exploded in popularity, so did the money. By the late 90s, their annual earnings hit over $12 million. In the early 2000s, that number jumped to past $15 million a year. By 2010, they were banking $17 million annually without owning a team or spending a dime on players. The league tried to buy them out. In 1982, they rejected $5 million over 8 years. Another offer of $18 million went nowhere. Finally, in 2014, the NBA waved the white flag and handed the Silnas a $500 million lump sum to end the agreement. By then, the brothers had earned over $300 million just from that deal. They never coached, drafted, or signed a single NBA player, but their contract became one of the most outrageous and profitable moves in league history. It was the ultimate passive income power play. Ceballos goes missing. In the 1995-96 NBA season, just 8 games in, Cedric Ceballos decided it was the perfect time to disappear. The Lakers were gearing up for a trip to Seattle, and Cedric, he was gearing up for Lake Havasu. Without telling anyone, no coach, no teammate, not even a ball boy, he missed the team flight and went totally AWOL. Right after buying 2 jet skis, he took off with his family for a sunny lake outing. Several days passed, no calls, no updates, nothing. The Lakers were left to wonder if he joined a pirate crew or started a new life on the water. Eventually, the front office had enough and suspended him indefinitely without pay. They weren't playing games. When Ceballos finally reappeared, he gave an explanation that somehow made things worse. He blamed a mechanical failure with one of the jet skis. That's right, he couldn't return to work because his new toy broke down in the middle of a lake. The reaction? Brutal. Fans and media roasted him. One, Take flat out called his decision irresponsible. You can't just vanish mid-season when you're supposed to be a starter on a contending team. This wasn't a sick day. It wasn't even a mental health break. It was a rogue jet ski adventure. While he did come back to the team, the trust was already cracked. The incident stained his season and made it clear that management wasn't thrilled. A few months later, he was traded. Turns out, disappearing without warning during a playoff push isn't a great long-term career move, even if the Lake Day was fun. Arenas gambling ring. On July 30th, 2025, Gilbert Arenas was arrested by the U.S. Department of Justice for running an illegal gambling ring straight out of his California mansion. He was hit with 3 felony charges: conspiracy, operating an illegal gambling business, and lying to federal investigators. He pleaded not guilty and was released on a $50,000 bond. The trial scheduled for September 23rd. According to the indictment, Arenas used his Encino mansion between September 2021 and July 2022 to host high-stakes underground poker games. The go-to game? Pot Limit Omaha. He didn't run it solo though. His associate, Arthur Katz, handled most of the logistics and property setup. The whole operation was flashy. Think chefs, valets, armed guards, and women hired to serve drinks, give massages, and entertain players. Those women were reportedly forced to pay a tax on their tips, which is as shady as it sounds. Another guy, Yevgen Krachin, was accused of working as a chip runner, making sure bets and chip distributions were smooth. It wasn't just Arenas and Katz. At least 5 others were arrested, including Yevgeny Gershman, who's allegedly connected to Israeli organized crime. Names like Alan Austria, Yaron Cohen, and Evgeny Terevsky also popped up in the indictment. If convicted, Arenas could face up to 5 years in federal prison for each of the 3 charges. The sentences might run concurrently, but that still adds up fast. From a retired NBA star to standing in federal court, this whole thing reads like a casino-themed movie gone off the rails. The chips were real, the security was armed, and now the stakes are as high as they get. Noel versus Rich Paul. In August 2021, Nerlens Noel filed a lawsuit against agent Rich Paul and Clutch Sports, claiming he lost $58 million in potential earnings due to what he called bad representation. The core of the issue goes back to July 2017. Noel, then a restricted free agent, got a $70 million offer from the Mavericks over 4 years. According to the lawsuit, Rich Paul told him to reject it, pushing him to sign a 1-year qualifying offer worth $4.1 million instead. The pitch? Play the season out, then land a max deal. That plan blew up fast. Noel got a thumb injury during the 2017-18 season, missed 42 games, and never regained the production he had before. Between 2017 and 2020, he earned just around $12 million total, way below what that Dallas offer would have given him. He also claimed Clutch ignored calls from interested teams and didn't promote him properly. Noel's lawsuit accused Paul of breach of fiduciary duty, breach of contract, and negligence. He wanted both actual and punitive damages, but in September 2022, a federal judge threw it out, saying disputes under the standard player-agent contract had to go through NBPA arbitration, not the courts. In early 2023, the drama finally ended. Noel agreed to pay the disputed commission tied to his Knicks contract and dropped all legal claims. The case was settled, just like that. It became a headline moment showing how a single contract decision and one piece of advice can change everything for a player, financially and professionally. Griffin's locker room moment. Right after getting drafted at 19, Blake Griffin got hit with one of the strangest welcome to the league moments imaginable. It didn't come from a teammate, a rival, or even a coach. It came from Clippers owner Donald Sterling. After a game, Sterling waltzed into the locker room with a crowd of guests in tow. He didn't just shake hands or offer congratulations. No, he lifted Griffin's arm like he was showing off a prized possession and then led the group in some weird cheer session. It didn't stop there. According to Griffin, Sterling encouraged his guests to walk over and touch his muscles. Yes, actual strangers were apparently invited to poke and prod a towel-wrapped rookie like he was a trophy on display. Griffin later said it felt like being around a weird uncle, which might be the gentlest way to describe what was a totally inappropriate display of ownership ego. This wasn't a one-off either. Griffin shared more stories later, including a bizarre white party hosted at Sterling's Malibu estate. There, the owner reportedly paraded him around, holding his hand and introducing him to guests like he was the entertainment. The whole vibe? Possessive, performative, and way out of line. What makes this all worse is that it happened in Griffin's earliest days, when players should be building confidence, not being objectified. The locker room incident was more than just awkward. It showed how Sterling saw his players, not as professionals, but as props. And for a rising star like Griffin, it was a preview of the unsettling power dynamics that would hang over the Clippers during Sterling's reign. Pollard's mic'd up misfire. On March 11, 2007, during a timeout in a Cavaliers game against the Pacers, Scott Pollard took his 15 seconds of camera time and absolutely tanked it. Sitting on the bench, staring straight into the camera, he said, "Hey kids, do drugs." That was it. No setup, no key in text, just pure, reckless nonsense, broadcast live to millions. The Cavaliers scrambled to clean it up. General manager Danny Ferry made it clear the team didn't condone the comment, and they had a conversation with Pollard right after. Pollard tried to brush it off as a bad joke, saying he didn't actually promote drug use, but the damage was already done. It became one of those weird NBA moments people still shake their heads about. Despite the chaos, there's no solid record of the NBA or the team fining him. No press release, no formal punishment. Nothing listed in league action reports. For a comment that instantly made headlines, the follow-up was surprisingly quiet. Either Pollard got a stern talk and a warning, or they just hoped the whole thing would blow over fast, and it kind of did. No suspension, no public fine, just a bad look that stuck to him more than any actual penalty. It wasn't a scandal with layers. It was just one bizarre sentence caught on a live mic that turned into an infamous clip, and somehow it didn't ruin his career, but it definitely cemented his place in the hall of awkward NBA soundbites forever. Iggy's Memphis standoff. In July 2019, Iggy was traded from the Warriors to the Grizzlies in a move that was all about the salary cap. But unlike most trades, this one came with an asterisk. He never reported to the team. That wasn't just Iggy bailing on Memphis. It was a mutual decision. Both sides agreed he'd stay away while they worked on a trade. No training camp, no practices, no jersey fitting. Just an understanding that he wouldn't suit up for them. Reports made it sound like Iggy refused to play, but that wasn't exactly true. He later explained that he never said he wouldn't play for the Grizzlies. From the start, he was told through agents and team reps that a trade or buyout was likely. So he waited. The Grizzlies weren't interested in a buyout, though. They saw value and wanted to move him for assets, not just cut him loose. That led to months of silence, technically on the roster, never on the floor. Finally, on February 6th, 2020, he was traded to the Miami Heat in a 3-team deal. The Grizzlies got their assets. Iggy got a contender. And the whole saga ended with him never playing a single second for Memphis. No rebellion, no holdout. Just a strange chapter shaped by business decisions and back-channel negotiations. It wasn't drama-filled. It was calculated, agreed upon, and dragged out behind closed doors. But it still stands as one of the weirdest non-playing stints in recent league history. Kemp's wild start. Shawn Kemp came out of Concord High School in Indiana as a full-blown phenom. He was a McDonald's All-American in 1988, broke scoring records left and right, and took his team to the state title game. The hype was real, and so was the plan. He signed with the University of Kentucky, ready to become their next big thing. But the wheels fell off before he even laced up. Kemp couldn't crack the NCAA's required 700 SAT score under Proposition 48. He tried more than once but didn't make it, which meant he couldn't play for Kentucky his freshman year. That alone was rough, but then came the jewelry incident. In early November, Kemp pawned 2 gold necklaces that had been reported stolen. The catch? They belonged to Sean Sutton, son of head coach Eddie Sutton. No charges were filed, and Kemp denied stealing them, but admitted pawning them was a bad move. The media storm didn't help, and by the end of that month, he left the program entirely. After that, he enrolled at Trinity Valley Community College in Texas. But even there, he never touched the court. One semester, no games, no points, just passing through. Then in 1989, he made the leap, straight into the NBA draft. The Seattle Supersonics took him 17th overall, and that's where everything flipped. Kemp became a 6-time All-Star and one of the most electric dunkers the league had ever seen. But before the fame and high-flying highlights, his path was a total mess. Academic ineligibility, scandal, media pressure, it looked like it could all collapse. Instead, it became the prelude to one of the wildest rises in NBA history, Dumas' Vanishing Act. Richard Dumas had the skills, the bounce, and the perfect setup. Drafted 46th overall by the Suns in 1991, he never even got to suit up that season. Before playing a single game, the NBA suspended him for violating the league's substance abuse policy. Just like that, his rookie year was wiped out. No games, no stats, just a roster spot that never saw the floor. Then came the comeback. In the 1992-93 season, Dumas returned 19 games into the year and made an instant impact. He averaged 15.8 points and 4.6 rebounds per game and made the all-rookie second team. The Suns were rolling that year, racking up 62 wins and charging all the way to the finals. Dumas was a key part of that success, playing like a guy who'd been there all along. But consistency was never the storyline. In October 1994, Dumas failed another drug test and got suspended again. This time, he didn't return until March 1995. Even then, he played only 15 games and averaged 5.5 points. His shot at long-term success was slipping fast. That slip turned into a fall. After breaking league substance policies again, this time including alcohol use violations, the NBA handed him a permanent ban. He was out. No comeback, no redemption arc. From explosive finals contributor to league exile, Dumas' journey became one of the biggest what-ifs of the era. The talent was never the problem. It was everything that happened off the court that made this story end early. Knicks-Wizards Christmas clash. On December 25th, 2014, the NBA's Holiday Spotlight game at Madison Square Garden turned into a showdown, and not just on the scoreboard. With 5 minutes and 31 seconds left and the Wizards comfortably ahead, Knicks forward Quincy Acy delivered a hard forearm shove to John Wall, who was dribbling up court. That shove lit the fuse. Wall shoved back. Acy, not backing down, appeared to swing at Wall, prompting a full-on flare-up that had players separating the two before it boiled over. The referees quickly reviewed the chaos. Acy was ejected on a flagrant 2 foul, and Wall picked up a technical. But the drama didn't end there. The league responded with penalties. Acy was suspended for 1 game without pay for initiating the scuffle. Wall was fined $15,000 for escalating the situation. No punches were officially ruled, but it was about as heated as a holiday game gets. Meanwhile, the Knicks were spiraling. That game marked their 6th straight loss and the 16th in 17 games. The team was already buried in dysfunction, and this altercation only spotlighted the frustration bubbling over. The Wizards, on the other hand, kept their focus. They walked out with a 102-91 win. And 2 of their stars, Wall and Bradley Beal, delivered strong performances that were almost completely overshadowed by the fight. Instead of the usual flashy dunks and festive highlight reels, fans got a Christmas Day brawl. No Christmas miracle for the Knicks. Just another L, another headline, and another low point in a brutal season. Curry's DNA controversy. In the 2004 to 2005 season, Eddie Curry's career hit a major detour. After developing an irregular heartbeat, he was sidelined for the final 13 games and the playoff. Even though multiple cardiologists cleared him to return, the Bulls weren't convinced. They wanted more than just medical opinions. They wanted genetic proof. Specifically, the team asked Curry to take a DNA test to check for hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, a condition linked to sudden cardiac death in athletes. To make the request more palatable, they offered an incentive, $400,000 a year for 50 years, $20 million total, if the test came back positive. Curry declined. He wasn't just thinking about himself. He and his agent believed that giving in could open the door for teams to pressure other players, especially black athletes, into surrendering private medical data just to keep their careers alive. The money didn't change his mind. He stood firm on privacy. With the standoff unresolved, the Bulls made their move. On October 3rd, 2005, they traded Curry to the New York Knicks. That ended the impasse and kicked off a whole new chapter in his career. It wasn't about contracts or court time. It was about DNA, autonomy, and a precedent the league had never seen before. What started as a health scare turned into a debate about medical ethics in pro sports. Curry wasn't just playing for minutes. He was pushing back against how far a franchise could go in the name of protecting an investment. Kirilenko's vanishing act. After a short run in Russia, Andrei Kirilenko made his NBA return in the 2012-13 season with the Timberwolves, playing 64 games and showing flashes of his old self. In July 2013, he signed a 2-year deal with the Brooklyn Nets and exercised his player option for $3.3 million heading into the 2014-15 season. But things got weird fast. By November, Kirilenko had taken a leave of absence from the Nets. Then on December 11th, the Nets traded him to the Philadelphia 76ers in a salary dump. Philadelphia wasn't interested in his production. They wanted his contract. Kirilenko, on the other hand, wanted no part of the Sixers. He never reported. On January 9th, 2015, Philadelphia suspended him without pay for failing to show up. Reports floated around that there was a quiet agreement he'd be waived, but the Sixers denied any deal like that. Kirilenko said his wife's pregnancy and family matters were behind the decision, and his camp pushed for a buyout. Philadelphia held the line, insisting he report and get in shape. It never happened. On February 21st, the Sixers finally waived him. 3 days later, Kirilenko signed with CSKA Moscow and closed the NBA chapter for good. From a former All-Star and Olympian to a suspended player avoiding a rebuild, Kirilenko's exit from the league wasn't loud. It was awkward. No games played for Philadelphia. No final send-off, just a quiet return to Russia after a standoff no one seemed all that eager to resolve. Rider's Oakland arrest. In June 1996, Isaiah Rider, then with the Minnesota Timberwolves, was arrested in Oakland after a traffic stop by California Highway Patrol officers. What they found inside his vehicle turned a routine stop into another headline in Rider's growing off-court rap sheet. First, there was marijuana in the car, enough to land him a misdemeanor possession charge. But the second item was a little more unusual, an illegal cellular phone. Not illegal like banned model, but illegal as in tampered with. The phone's serial number had been removed or altered, making it a suspected cloned device. These types of phones could reroute calls to someone else's account or even piggyback off legit billing lines, a form of telecom fraud. After the arrest, Rider was convicted of misdemeanor marijuana possession. As for the phone, he pleaded no contest to the charge of possessing an illegal or cloned communication device. No felony charges, no jail time, but another dent in a career already under scrutiny. For Rider, this wasn't a one-off incident. It was one more addition to a growing list of off-court missteps that often overshadowed his talent. Between the weed and the clone tech, the whole thing played out like a strange side plot in a 90s crime show, and made sure his name stayed in the headlines for all the wrong reasons. Haywood versus the NBA. In 1969, Spencer Haywood went pro after just 2 college seasons, signing with the ABA's Denver Rockets under a hardship exemption. He lit the league up, leading in scoring and rebound, and walked away with Rookie of the Year and MVP honors. But he wasn't done breaking the rules. In 1970, the Seattle Supersonics threw him a 6-year, $1.5 million contract. Even though the NBA had a strict 4-year rule, players had to wait 4 years after high school to enter the league. The NBA pushed back hard, threatening both Haywood and the team. So Haywood and Sonics. Owner Sam Schulman sued, filing an antitrust case under the Sherman Act. The court sided with Haywood. A district court granted an injunction letting him play, and the U.S. Supreme Court upheld it in March 1971. The NBA blinked. They settled, and Haywood stayed in Seattle. That decision cracked the door open for early entries and changed NBA draft rules forever. But the chaos didn't stop there. Just months later, the Buffalo Braves tried to swoop in. During the 1971 draft, they used their second-round pick, 30th overall, to draft Haywood, even though he was already under contract with the Sonics. The move was pure opportunism. The league and courts weren't impressed. Seattle's claim held up, and Buffalo's pick went nowhere. The impact? Massive. Haywood's case led the NBA to formally adopt a hardship rule and open the door for future players like Kevin Garnett and LeBron James to enter early. And Haywood himself, he went on to a Hall of Fame career, not just for the points he scored, but for the fight he took all the way to the highest court, child's conditioning suspension. On October 22, 2002, the New Jersey Nets dropped the hammer on veteran point guard Chris Childs, suspending him indefinitely for showing up to training camp badly out of shape. Reports at the time said he was carrying 25 to 30 extra pounds above his target, playing weight of around 205 to 210 pounds. This wasn't just about a few missed workouts. Childs had also been dealing with an Achilles tendon injury that limited his ability to practice, but the weight gain pushed the team past its patience. The Nets made it clear: no court time, no practice, and no roster spot until he got his body back in game condition. He spent months away from the team, training to get back in form. By January 2003, he was finally activated after losing the weight, but the comeback was short-lived. He appeared in just 12 games for the Nets, never regaining a real role in the rotation. By late February, the team waived him. That was it. No farewell tour, no bounce-back moment, just a quiet release that marked the end of his NBA career. From trusted floor general to suspended veteran, Childs' last NBA chapter didn't end with a buzzer beater or a playoff run. It ended with a scale, a suspension, and a slow fade out of the league. If you enjoyed this, I'm going to be posting a lot here. I would greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.